Folks, we're going to get started momentarily. We're waiting for the ordinances that are being inserted in the committee to be reproduced in the clerk's office. Just to explain my plan today for the committee, we are going to have a number of ordinances that I'm going to introduce to the committee, and we're going to begin with the city solicitor explaining to us what each of them does, and then we are going to hear from any of you who wish to address the committee for 2 minutes each. And if you want to address the committee and have to fill out a yellow card, please do so over to my left to your right, and you will be called. And we will go as long as necessary to hear from everyone. And as you may know, there's a special meeting of council that's been scheduled for 4 p.m. So we haven't heard from everybody by 3:30. We will suspend the hearing for folks and act on the ordinances as the committee will develop its recommendations to the full council. And the council meeting, as I said, will begin at 4. And there, Brantley has indicated an intention to allow anyone who wishes to address the council meeting on the subject of the ordinances to do so, again, subject to a 2-minute rule. And my understanding is he plans to continue that process until everybody who wishes to speak is done so. So that's our plan. And we'll wait for the ordinances to start.
Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering if the chair, you can let us know why, given that we're going to ask us to vote on these ordinances, no member of this committee has seen any of the ordinances up to this point.
You know, I just thought perhaps at 10 I haven't had a chance to read them either. That's why Mr. Thomas, your purpose is going to explain to us what each of them does.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just confused about what's actually going on here today. I have a set of rules with this council, which I have some also that work with the committee. It says the rules have been adopted by the council, but I'm unaware of any meeting that I can attend when the rules were adopted. Additionally, I don't understand the process by which we got under this committee. So maybe you can help me out with that, perhaps the solicitor can. But I'm wondering, is this committee even legally constituted at this point?
Well, you know, along with the other appointments of the mayor, I was appointed chair of the streetcar committee. And we did not adopt rules yesterday, and my understanding is that it's the chair's prerogative to make parliamentary rulings until such time as rules are adopted. And rules weren't adopted at the request of several members of council who wanted time to read them. That is appropriate, of course. The rules of council we previously were operating under did provide that any member of council would be a member of any committee that he or she wished to be a member of. And my assumption is that everybody who's attending today wishes to be a part of the streetcar committee, and I will read the report.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr.
I appreciate your explanation, but I remain confused. It appears to me that the rules you're referring to are expired.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're operating under new rules that at least I have not yet had the opportunity to see or understand. So what are the new rules? What are the changes? When I had the rules committee, we actually put out a red line version so that people could see what it was we've done. I've not seen that. So what are the new rules and how do they apply to what's going on here?
I'm sorry, Mr. I thought I answered it. The council did not yet adopt new rules. I don't see that that's a reason to suspend the proper business of the council. I've been duly appointed by the mayor under his authority of the charter as chair of the streetcar committee. Council did adopt a resolution yesterday adopting a number of committees, including the streetcar committee. And as I say, the past practice and the past rules, which you're quite right have expired, indicate that any member of council may be a member of any committee. So my intention as the chair of the committee is to assume any member of council who's present is a member of the streetcar committee, and we'll proceed on that basis.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I hate to belabor the point, but you're not doing anything to help me understand what's going on here today. we did agree to adopt committees, but we're operating, well, under rules that no longer exist. I take that back. The rules we referred to that we should operate under don't exist. We have new rules we've not yet seen or adopted. So again, I'm just as confused as I was when I first asked the question. I do not understand what's going on here. And I think that, we need some help from somewhere. Perhaps the solicitor can add some clarity to what's going on here.
Maybe I'm answering the question better, but there are no rules. In the absence of rules, the presiding officer makes the rules. And he has just said, any member of council who wants to be a member of this committee is a member of this committee. There are no rules. The rules are governed by the chair of this committee. And that's how we will operate. And he has said very clearly about 3 or 4 times that everyone who shows up for this meeting is a member of this committee. That's his decision. It's really not that complicated.
Mr. Young?
Mr. Chair, I appreciate the mayor's explanation. It really is that complicated. Because if I understand it correctly, there are no rules, which means, according to what I've just heard, you get a chance to make the rules. So since I don't know what the rules are, will you explain the rules?
Mr. Young, I plan to do my best to make the parliamentary rulings of the presiding officer consistent with the practice of this council as I understand it. Instead of taking one at a time, I guess. Mr. Chair, Ms. Simpson?
I'm feeling the frustration with my colleagues here, and we're operating with no rules, chair makes rules, no ordinances in front of us to review. We're going to have them explained to us, no time to read them. We're going to listen to the public. We're going to make recommendations to a council with no on issues that we've not had time to deliberate on, review. This does not feel to me like a process that's open, that is deliberative, that takes time. And my question is, why do we feel the need to rush on such important matters when we're in a meeting with no documents, no rules, no order, and lots of confusion? And I think that is not the way we want to start this new council. And so what I would ask is that rather than starting with disorder and dysfunction, that we really think about what is going to be achieved here and what we can do to maybe move this later in the week, do this later. Because this feels like the epitome of disorder. And we know that any decisions that we make today could be subject to some litigation. So I want to make sure that we're very careful that however we adopt this, members of the committee or not, we're going to be voting today or not. So this feels very rushed to me, and I think that we should really be careful about how we proceed with matters that are so important.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Ms. Simpson. As soon as the ordinance is moved from the clerk's office to our desk, what we're doing today will be more clear. Mr. Winter?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for running this wonderful committee. I'm going to ask, if it's okay with you, the city solicitor, I have a solution to this. In all fairness, I think Mr. Sittenfield, Mr. Wendell Young, Councilmember Yvette Simpson, and Councilmember Silbach, in all due respect for them, I'm going to ask the city solicitor that we temporarily adopt the old rules that those individuals passed, and we're going to live by those rules that they passed themselves. And I'm going to ask for a roll call vote in a moment. So, Mr. City Solicitor, the chair, could you give us a legal opinion on can we just pass the old rules for 30 days? When I got elected to council in 2009, this is what we did. We had old rules. We temporarily passed old rules until we adjusted the new rules. Mr. City Solicitor,
Point of order.
wonderful chair, please.
Point of order. Well, Mr. Winter has the floor. He's asked the solicitor to respond to the question.
Mr. Chairman, the rules of council are currently not legal issues. It's the prerogative of the legislative body to determine its own rules and how to operate business amongst themselves. It's the body, therefore, it's really not a legal issue. It's a matter of one of how council wishes to conduct its own business solely under council.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. President,
Mr. Chair.
I have to do yet.
Mr.
Yes, I'd like to, thank you, Mr. City Solicitor. Again, the four individuals that passed the rule, along with the 5 members of the council, we've already read those rules, and all my colleagues have read those rules. And so, Mr. President, I would hope you would entertain a motion that we would pass those rules, those old rules, for a temporary 30 days until we get a chance to modify the new rules, and that will be the rules that my wonderful colleagues are questioning today, so they know those rules because they wrote those rules. So I'm going to put that on the table, that we vote on that motion in a moment.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate Mr. Winford's offer, and in fact, I would be more than happy to work under the old rules. My question is, in the genesis of our process, how in the world are you in the streetcar committee going to adopt or address rules? It would seem to me the rules should be addressed in the rules committee, and especially we're going to operate under the old rules. And under the old rules, rules come from the rules committee, so I don't know how this committee could deal with rules.
Well, Mr. Chair, whether the full council has to adopt the rules, I don't think that this particular problem can be addressed by Mr. Winford's motion. Mr. Chair.
So my question is, are there even members of this committee? And I'd like the city solicitor to respond, since there's been no ordinance or motion passed by council adding any members to any committee. In fact, I've never even asked if I want to serve on a committee. So can we, further adding to the disorder of this council, can you address the fact that no motion or any vote is taken placing members of this council on any committee?
Mr. Chair, the rules of council are not governed by ordinance, and therefore are not described by the charter as official activities of the council. As I said previously, how council conducts its own business and organizes itself in its own prerogative is set by the majority of its members. And again, have to defer, frankly, back to the council as to how it chooses to organize itself and conduct its own business.
Mr. Chair.
So I'd like to move with an immediate vote to reconvene this meeting to a point after which we've at least seen the ordinances, maybe even just an hour. We need to at least review them. And then also when we actually can adopt rules to govern us that we, at least the majority of us, agree on. So I'd like to move to immediately cancel this meeting and reconvene at a time where we can actually review ordinances, and after we've agreed on rules for this committee. And I'd like an immediate roll call, please.
Immediate roll call for discussion.
Mr. President, I want to withdraw my original motion because so we can rule on Mr. Silbach's motion. I will withdraw mine out of due process because I want to kind of move the meeting on. But I think the city solicitor has been very, very clear. Council establishes their own rules. Everyone knows this is a new council. We're getting started. We've got to modify the old rules. So everyone knows that. So I think the chair has the authority and the members of this council have authority to move forward today. So, Mr. President, I'm going to withdraw my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Winford. The motion before us, Mr. Stillbach's motion that the meeting be canceled and reconvene when the members of the committee have the ordinance and that our ordinance in some period of time to read it, and secondly, when the rules of council have been adopted. Roll call on Mr. Stillbach's motion.
Mr. Chair. Councilmember Siddick, I have a comment on the motion before us. I'm a little bit less concerned about the rules. I think Councilmember Flynn has drafted some able new rules. The old rules, I didn't like everything, but they were basically more to what I do feel somewhat strongly about. So I have a question for the chair before voting on Councilmember Steelhoff's motion. It's been the practice for many of us not to vote on things, whether we support them or don't support them, that we haven't seen until after the meeting has started. So if you would agree that we wouldn't have a vote, if you would hold a vote until a future meeting, then I'm fine with that rather than canceling this one. But I do agree. In fact, I think every council member that's under the last term had serious beef with voting on something that we haven't even seen, because as we know well, commas and splices and spaces and periods can be millions of dollars. So I just want to be able to confirm we'll be able to bring the due diligence to whatever it is that we're going to be voting on.
I just want to make a few points here. I think it's obvious what's happening here, which is an attempt to delay the will of the voters. And the fact is, everyone in this council knows we're going to be voting on ordinances to suspend the streetcar. It's clear. We put that in the paper, we've announced it. The stuff will be coming up shortly. We were all elected, we know exactly where we stand on this. And I'm a little less worried about council members feeling like they're out of joint about a process, and more worried about the fleecing of the taxpayers that's been going on for the last several years on this project. And I think it's high time we put their interests first and not stand on phony principle at a time when it's clear what's in front of us. And the second point I'd make is, my only advice would be, as we're waiting for the ordinances, and let's be clear, the ordinances suspend the streetcar. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. It suspends the spending on the streetcar. But while we're waiting for the paper to be printed, instead of talking to each other, why don't we let the citizens who've taken time out of their day come forward and tell us what they think? So my advice is we proceed as we have advertised.
Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I call for roll call, Mr. Sabas. Clerk.
Glenn,
No.
Murray,
No.
Steelbox, yes. Sennenfeld,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Smitherman,
No.
Winberg,
No.
Young,
Yes.
and
No. Motion fails.
Mr. Chair, can we go back to the original discussion? I know we're not operating the rules, I still have comments to make on this matter. We're gonna go forward. It's not customary to have a mayor and a committee meeting, and I don't want to be disrespectful in my remarks, but I'm a lawyer, and I'm subject to ethics rules. I don't play games with the decisions that we make. This is a very serious matter that we know will be subject to lawsuits. And so I'm protecting myself and the people who elected me to make sure that whatever we do today is beyond reproof, is done orderly, and we just said yesterday in speeches that process matters. We said that it was important to make sure that everything that we do is decent and in order. We have an open, transparent system that people have the opportunity to reflect upon the decisions that we make. If the ordinance just said we're suspending the streetcar, then it would take me 1 minute to read. But obviously, it says much more than that, and I need to, as a lawyer, as a duly elected member of this council, make sure that what I read makes sense, particularly because this is, one, so important, and two, we know it will be subject to litigation. And any decision that we make today that could cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost litigation because our process is screwed up, including attorney's fees, is not good stewardship as it relates to the people of Cincinnati. And so I would prefer that we not characterize everyone as trying to stop a process, but really that we respect the fact that what we do here is very important and subject to litigation, and that we make sure we do it decent and in order. And I would say that doing it without a recognized committee, without rules, is not the foundation of making sure that we're insulated from litigation if it were to come from this decision today. Thank you.
Chair.
Mr. Young.
Chair, I agree with my colleague, Ms. Simpson, but I also wanted to add that this lack of process and what is apparent to me is an absolute lack of transparency about what's going on. I'm amazed that anyone can find a comfort level while we sit here not even knowing whether we have a duly constituted committee, while we really don't have rules to operate under. The only way I can begin to imagine we have a comfort level with something like this would be that some of us are privy to information that others are not. So if there is, in fact, I respect that Mr. Flynn's a lawyer and he's written some new rules for us. If you have a comfort level with that, that's wonderful, I guess. But I suspect your comfort level will be no greater than mine if you've never seen this stuff until today. So much for transparency and so much for excellent communication and so much for caring about the will of the people. I suspect the will of the people, among other things, is that we operate in a way that makes sense. And I don't see that going on today. What I see right now is simply someone taking an opportunity to try to hold this council hostage to rules we don't have, a process that does not exist, and wanting us to vote on stuff we couldn't possibly understand in just a matter of minutes. That's not
Mr.
Chair, that's not transparent.
Here's what I